Hello and welcome to Coder Radio. I've got a great show for you, talking some Azure, but mostly Horizon DB with Franck Pachot of Microsoft. First, a little housekeeping as always. Again, it is the doldrums of summer. If you need any development, integration, or automation work done, let me know. You can go to themadbotter.com for that, or just fill out the show form, or really, you can just hit me up in the Discord. Speaking of the Discord, get in there. The Discord's hot. The Discord's fine. Hot? No, I think you say the water is warm, right? Not hot. Unless it's a hot tub, then I guess you could say that. So a little bit of actual news. Fable's back, and it's more miserly than ever. So you only, until July 7th, depending on the date this airs, have or had 50% of your usage allotment for a week. It will also fail back or intentionally drop back, is what it seems like from their announcement, to Opus 4.8 for most common quote tasks, which they specifically say coding. So that's interesting. After the 7th, folks on the Claude Max and Pro plans, I think it's Pro Max, whatever, you pay $100 or $200. Those are the two plans I'm talking about. We'll have no usage of Fable without paying the pay-as-you-go token fee. So that's a little surprising. I understand, the economics here, but that's interesting. At the time of recording, I don't know how tasty or true this bacon is, but there's definitely a current among some of the heavier users and people talking about this that they feel Opus has been nerfed. I don't know how true that is, but it's interesting. It definitely seems like they're positioning Fable as the enterprise play, and everything else is, you would almost say like Opus 4.8 is like the prosumer, right? You're paying the $200 a month. And I guess whatever the plan below that, or the two plans, I don't know how many plans they have at the lower end, or for, I don't want to say consumer, but less high market. So that's super interesting. One takeaway here, and I would just, I don't want to jump into the whole thing about them being restricted by the administration, I should say the US administration. But one takeaway here is these tools are not yours to own, right? You are not hosting them yourself. You do not control them. And for any reason, or frankly, no reason, these vendors can either A, raise the price, or B, take it away. So that is, I think, a bigger risk than most, executives on the business side, as they try to roll this stuff out, are, it's a bigger risk than they're giving it credit for. We'll see. I mean, we're early days in all this. My long-term bet is, specific, task-oriented, and domain, meaning, industry or space-oriented, local-ish models are going to eventually arise. One other thing I'd flag, I try not to do the controversial political stuff on here anymore. Those were the bad old days, right? But it was striking to see the CEO of Anthropic flag open source models as a threat. Those who, I was chatting with the Discord know, I hate this whole marketing scheme of it's our model. You should use our model because it's so good. It's dangerous. Mwahaha. That's silly. That reminds me of like a Sega marketing campaign from the 90s, right? We're so cool. We're extreme with an X and not an E. Little silly that it backfired on them. But again, I think that happened more because of not managing their relationship with a fairly mercurial set of folks. I don't mean mercurial, the source control system. Shout out to anybody old enough to have actually used mercurial like me. There you go. I think it was better than Git. Don't quote me on that, even though you totally can. There's going to be occurrences like this again. And we need to, well, I guess we don't need to, but if your organization is investing heavily in this, you need to think about mitigation strategies. I mean, part of the reason it's the doldrums of summer is I am kind of charging ahead with the banner of on-premises, host it yourself. You need to, these prices can't remain this. So it's forget about the political stuff and them getting the export compliance ban or whatever it was. These prices are gonna go up significantly. They just can't. $200 a month for Pro Max is not gonna be a thing for much longer. I don't have any inside information. That's my bacon, but I don't think that's really that hardy of a bacon because it's just logical. And once one does it, right, they're all going to do it. And, that's just how things go. I mean, I'm very curious to see what OpenAI does here with ChatGPT and particularly Codex, because it definitely seems that Anthropic has somewhat stumbled in terms of goodwill in the developer community, both with their just misguided comments on open source. And he's a smart enough guy to know that open source has been a net good for the world. Although I will say this is not the first time a smart guy said something like this. Quote Steve Ballmer, open source is a cancer, right? Or was it Linux is a cancer? I don't remember. I think it is open source. I remember calling a communist. I think it was Bill Gates, right? You got to go back and watch your Robert Fringely documentaries. The guy's name is really cringy for those youngins. They really hated open source for obvious reasons, right? The tidal wave memo regarding Internet Explorer. We're doing some great history here, by the way. Microsoft was terrified of Netscape, and the open source model was just, they were significantly paranoid. It's kind of ironic because they're a huge contributor to open source now, and Azure runs tons and tons and tons of Linux. They ship basically a Linux kernel, right, in WSL2 on Windows now. And I would say they're one of the better, vendors that isn't quote unquote a Linux company, but is in the community, right? So it's just odd how that played out and how their contributions have escalated. And I would even say their attitude and community participation has been really good. We had we have Franck on this week. And yeah, that's really great, right? Their Horizon DB stuff is running on Azure, but they've also open sourced a ton of their Postgres extensions, and he explains this better. This is so, for a little bit of context here, all this Horizon B thing is so totally new, and I didn't have a chance to get hands on with it. So I'm definitely asking him questions from a position of ignorance. But it's interesting. I mean, they're also a strong supporter of Postgres, right, and Linux, and it's just great to see how that's changed and how awesome of a positive contributor to the community Microsoft has become. Weird that Anthropic is taking a crap on open source, considering, I mean, if you look at the team there, these should be the guys that like are theoretically on our side, right? But I don't know. I'm sure there's all kinds of backdoor things going on, and there might be a little bit of look at what the incentives are, and that's where you'll land in terms of, well, open source models are probably a threat if you've raised, billions and billions and billions of VC money and somehow have to make that good. But I just looking at the history of the computing industry, I mean, you can go on certain subreddits and the Windows enthusiasts be like, lol, desktop Linux, fair enough. But look at servers. Look at every appliance that has a smart chip in your house. It's all Linux. It's all open source. Some of it's BSD, even for the more devilly oriented. I think just historically, the mobile phones, the core OSs, right? It's a Unix kernel of some kind. I know some people will jump up that Apple's kernel is whatever, but it's basically just looking at the server side alone and all the IoT. The jury's in, and open source won. So I don't see why these LLMs ought to be any different, other than, I mean, I don't even know how you would mitigate that. Would you pass a law? I guess you would pass a law that says you can't distribute it, but that would be insane for any country to do, because then their competitors would just not pass that law and all the contributions would go towards their models, right? So you kind of, I don't know. This one stuck on my craw a little bit, because the idea, it's never good when the powers that be start talking about open source in general for the community, because they usually want to stop the distribution of software. And as we all know, software wants to be free, man, right? All right, let's put away our 90s, pink and green and yellow color scheme, and let's go ahead and just hear from Franck. But first, a word from our sponsor. We're brought to you today by Alderaan Games, the makers of the hit dinosaur massively multiplayer game that's available on just about every platform, Path of Titans. Check it out. If you like dinosaurs, if you like playing online, that is a hit. They also make a number of other great games. But what they really want to talk about today is their hiring. They are an Unreal shop, so Unreal experience is preferred, especially preferred if you have anti-cheat experience. However, they have multiple positions open, and they are willing to entertain junior developers who are keen to learn and ready to rock. go ahead and reach out to them at Alderon Games. They're also in the Discord if you post yourself in the Looking for Work channel. Enjoy. Good luck. All right, we have Franck Pachot, a program manager at Microsoft, specializing but not limited to Postgres. Frank, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I joined Microsoft in the product management team on working on Postgres databases on Azure. Yeah.
Awesome. So, I reached out to you again. You've been on before. It caught my eye, the new release of Horizon DB over at Azure. That seemed really interesting, and some of the stuff going on regarding, you know, Postgres style data lakes, right? Can you tell me a little bit? Let's start with Horizon DB. Tell me a little about what is that? I know it's pretty new.
Yeah. It's pretty new because it's in general preview just from this month. It was a private preview before, and it will be generally available in a few months probably. So the idea is not uh, completely new. The idea is when you run a database in the cloud, you want to scale, but a SQL database is not easy to scale because you need a single point that does the SQL, runs the query, and manages transactions. So the idea is to separate the compute part and the storage part, a bit like Aurora did, or AlloyDB on Google, Aurora for AWS. The main reason for that is that it's not complex to scale out the storage, but the transactions part is more difficult. So the idea is that compute is stateless and you have a single instance that manages all transactions there, but the storage can scale out. So you scale up the compute and you scale out the storage.
Oh, interesting. So is the idea, and I'm coming to this like a babe in the woods, so I know very little about Horizon DB. Is it, as opposed to say just straight Postgres? Is it to make scaling a little easier? Is that kind of, or is it a cost savings? What's the pitch?
So it makes scaling easier, especially on the cloud. Postgres can scale vertically. It can handle big workloads if you scale vertically. The problem with scaling vertically is that typically you need to stop the instance and start a larger one. So you have a downtime. If you disaggregate those parts, it's easier to scale the compute alone if there is no state in the compute alone. So the idea is that you scale up only the part that you cannot scale out with Postgres without giving up on some features of Postgres, but you scale out the storage there. So basically, the compute instance runs the Postgres code, but plugs some extensions that are specific to the cloud storage. And also the difference is that it runs on a specific cloud, Azure here, so it can benefit from features of the storage that may not be available everywhere. When you know exactly your infrastructure and your storage, you can take some decisions where with Postgres itself, as it can run anywhere, it must be safe on any storage service, any file system option, whatever. So it can be optimized better when you know the storage that is behind.
I see. So that makes a ton of sense. Now that it would be optimized for Azure, and I'm assuming it only runs on Azure, correct?
It only runs on Azure. Maybe at some point there will be a solution to run it locally to ease the development, but the goal
Sure.
is really to run on Azure. Yeah.
To run on Azure, absolutely. So I would imagine, like myself, a lot of the listeners here are going to have pretty mature, right, enterprise applications they're either maintaining or responsible for in some way that have already large Postgres databases, probably on Azure. At least most of my customers are on Azure these
Mhm.
days. What is the story there? Is migration, if they want to either do a parallel deployment or Horizon DB to try it out, or if they indeed just want to make the jump, is there some kind of happy path there to migrate off of standard Postgres onto this?
So what is easy there is that it's all Postgres from a developer point of view.
Oh,
It's not Postgres for DBA because it's different storage, different way to manage it. But from a developer point of view, when you connect to it, you have all Postgres features because the compute instance is based on the Postgres code. There are not nothing limited because of that. So moving the application, you should not have to change anything there because your application just can connect to HorizonDB like it connects to Postgres. So that makes it easier. And then moving data also can use all the tools that are available with Postgres. The big advantage, the big gift of Postgres is not only the extensibility of Postgres, but all the ecosystem around. So you have many tools, you have logical replication, you have dumps, you have a lot of tools to move data between Postgres databases, and you can just use them. So yeah, the idea of the preview is that if you are already running on a Postgres application, you can try quickly HorizonDB and then run the same application with better performance and better elasticity because of the scalability.
perfect. Because I can already see this question coming. I'm
Yeah.
assuming anybody using like an entity framework or an active record, an ORM like that, for all they care about, it is Postgres in terms
Yeah.
of those. Yeah, okay.
If something works differently than Postgres, then there is something to fix because the goal is really to run exactly like Postgres with better performance, better availability because also the storage is multiple zones. But from the application point of view, it's the same. The execution plan looks the same. There are some extensions in addition to that because there are some lot of extension in Postgres and in the managed service. There are some extensions that are supported. And there are some extensions that are specific, for example, AI features. So of course, if you use them, then you want to use them on HorizonDB. But what you run on other Postgres, you can run it there. Yeah.
So you said the magic buzzword, AI features. What kind of AI features are we talking about?
So AI features, yeah, there is a lot behind that. So first, there are many features. The first one is being able to store vectors and embeddings. And that's already possible with Postgres PG vector extension. So of course it is available there in HorizonDB like it is available in other Postgres managed services. And then you want to index those embeddings. So PG vector comes with already with vector indexes, but they have some limitations. In HorizonDB, you can use the PG vector indexes, and you have, in addition to that, the disk ANN extensions there that you can run on HorizonDB with a different index that provides better performance, but also a very interesting feature like pre-filtering, because usually you want to do similarity search on embeddings, but you don't want to look at all embeddings. For example, if you are in multi-tenant, you want to focus only on that tenant. If you look at the past month data, you want to focus on it. And the indexes that come with pgvector, they cannot combine the filtering with the index traversal. So either they use the index, they have too many candidates, and then they have to filter them. With ANN, one big advantage is that it is filtered during the traversal of the index. But it's a choice because this one is available only on HorizonDB, but the syntax, everything is the same from the application point of view. You just create a different index that gives you better performance, but still the application that runs queries on PG vector, the query planner will pick the disk ANN index if it's better.
Right. So basically, from the application developer's point of view, there's no difference. It's under the hood, or from the DBA trying to optimize things that the extensions, for lack of a better term, may come into play.
You see the difference in the execution plan. If you look at the execution plan, then you have some clues about how it is executed, but the query itself is the same. Yeah, same operators.
Now, for folks deploying, and I know this is a huge topic, so we'll just try to keep it narrow. Things like PG Lake, data lakes on Azure. Can you do that with Horizon DB right now, or is it even an appropriate tool, or should you stick with regular Postgres?
So for the moment, there is the regular Postgres plus some extensions. Still with AI, usually when an application uses AI, it has to call another service to create the
Sure.
embeddings, for example. So there is again an extension in Horizon DB that adds the direct call to the LLM models. So it's Azure AI. Big advantage there is that you do everything from the SQL query. You have new functions to call generative AI just to create the embeddings or use any function from the models. So you have the models in Azure and you just call them from there. So that's one extension that is there. Something that we see also in modern usage of databases. There are a lot of workflows, and also still in AI, you need to, when data is updated, you need to update the embeddings. And again, this is something you don't want to put in the application because it's not really business logic. It's just maintaining the data structures. So there is also an extension there, PG Durable, that helps to create workflows with pipelines and have them durable, means that if it fails, it will start where it has failed and all that. And this extension was made to integrate those modern applications in Horizon DB, but this extension, Microsoft has given it to open source, so you can use it on any Postgres, basically. PG Durable.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so you can, even if you were self-hosting, you could use those extensions.
Yeah. It can be used for simple scheduling or for more complex tasks where you have to run something, and if it is completed, then you run something else, or maybe in parallel, and you just define with SQL syntax, you define the workflow, and then it runs, and automatically, if the database restarts or fails over, then the jobs will just continue.
Perfect. So this is all very new. I would ask you, what is one thing I should have asked you about Horizon DB?
Oh, there are many other features, and to be fair, there are some features where I didn't even look deeply into them. One, for example, is the possibility of using Postgres as a graph database,
Oh, really?
because graph functions are coming to Postgres also.
Right.
I mentioned vector search, but there is also text search that you want to use in some cases because you know the words. Vector search is good for semantic similarity, but maybe you just know the words that you want to look at in big text. So there is a BM25 index, so the same as the Lucene ones, with a full text search extension. Yeah, those are the features that make Postgres a database that can be used for many different workloads without having to put more data logic in the application, because that belongs to the database. So it's easier to manage and deploy because everything is in the database, but also for execution, always better to run where the data is, to avoid moving data to different services and then putting them back to the database. But the most advantage of it, I think, is high availability, the main advantage, because Postgres doesn't have built-in high availability. There is replication, and there are tools around that can automate, detect failures, automate a failover, but it's all quite complex to automate around. When the storage runs as a service that is available in multiple zones, the replication is done at lower level, then it brings availability to Postgres without this complexity. So basically, Horizon DB, when you write, the write-ahead login that protects the instance is sent to the storage servers on multiple zones. And it's written locally only to a cache. So you get the good latency for reads because it was written locally. But if the instance fails or the zone fails, data is still available from the storage server.
Huh. Okay. So that would be more of a recovery feature, basically, if I'm understanding right.
Yeah, it's very fast failover. It's resilience to failure, but with very fast failover because all the hard thing about durable data is offloaded to the storage server that are resilient to failure because there are multiple zones. In case of the compute failure, you just wait a few seconds to get another compute instance on the same data. So basically, it's time to recover in seconds. It's still using the mechanism of Postgres. It's not a distributed SQL database with a consensus protocol behind and where transactions can run across multiple servers. It's still using Postgres with the benefit of having everything on one server, but a recovery time in seconds.
Okay, well, see, I have a lot to learn about this, so it's very exciting. Now, it just came out at what was it? I always confuse it, Insight or Build, but I don't remember the name of the. Was it Build?
You mean the developer conference at Microsoft? Yeah, Build.
Yeah, that's where I got it in the newsletter, but I get the other one too, so I always get confused which is which.
Yeah, there was a lot about databases at Build this year because there is a ReasonDB and there are also some contributions to Postgres itself. So not only the managed service that runs on Azure, but a lot of contributions in upstream. There is also an extension, something that is missing for developers in Postgres. There are no good UI, there are no good IDE. There is pgadmin, but it's quite old and difficult. So the VS Code extension for Postgres tries to bring better developer experience to the developers who are on VS Code and they don't want to switch to another tool. They will have everything in VS Code, writing queries, building queries, maybe with AI help, looking at the performance, looking at the execution plans. That's a feature I really like also because I don't think developers look enough at execution plans. They try to guess how it works from the query, but if you don't look at the execution plan, you cannot guess anything about the performance. So when we can bring an easy way to look at the execution plan in a graphical way, then it's better for developer experience and they will have better queries if they know how it works.
Very cool. That's I tend to live in terminal and VS Code, so
that's, yeah.
All
so
right.
with the extension, you can do a lot, and it's new. It will evolve also. But for example, even provisioning, you want to quickly provision a Postgres database on your laptop. You don't even have to move to the command line or to Docker desktop. With the extension, you can just provision a Docker container with the entry for the connection directly there, and you just stay in VS Code and you have everything there. Yeah.
Perfect. So I always wrap, you know this from being on before, with one question. What's one tool that you can't live without? It can be anything in the wide world, right? Doesn't have to be coding or database related. It just has to be something that you or Microsoft don't make because you're an employer, right? So.
Yeah, I think one tool, if it's a tool, is Linux.
Oh, you're speaking my language. I'm on desktop Linux right now. I'm running Pop OS.
Yeah, because I like to understand how things work. And even if they're open source, you can look at the code, but it's quite difficult to guess how it works. With Linux, you have so many tools to trace how it works. For example, just this morning, I was looking at a new feature in Postgres 19, improving I/O with asynchronous I/O, and it's amazing how you can how many things you can see from Linux point of view to trace what is really happening.
I love it. So, Franck, it's been great having you. I hope to have you on again. You know, I love my databases, particularly Postgres. In fact, I'm reading, I think it's an advanced copy still, so I'm not sure, but I don't think I'll get in trouble. A book called Just Use Postgres, which I should probably just get as a bumper sticker at this point.
Yeah, it's from Dennis Magda. Dennis was a colleague when I was at Gigabyte.
Really? See that? It's a small world after all.
Small world, yeah.
All right, Franck, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.